Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I dislike very much when my predictions, my analysis, my conclusions come true. I mean, on one side, because usually they're negative, which is be careful, that's what's going to happen most likely, or I predict that, and it's a negative thing, and then it occurs. It doesn't strike my ego, like, oh my God, Emil, you were right, I told you so. No, I don't like it happened. I'm not saying I want to be wrong, but I don't like when evil things, or in my perception, evil things happen. This is the case in Germany right now. And I'm going to discuss the issue of a conservative party, so-called, making an alliance with a liberal party, which is I would go like a far right or right with a left. They want to make an alliance to form the government in Germany, which is the so-called Merz. Merz is the leader of the winning party in Germany, which they call Conservative Party, making an alliance with Olaf Scholz. Olaf Scholz is the communist one, on the left. I will show towards you, okay? So, all right, this is right on your side, this is left. So we have the center. And we have supposedly the winners of the elections in Germany were the the center right, the Merz party, right here. So the center, right here. Supposedly they are conservatives. I said they're not conservatives. Why? Because Angela Merkel was the chief of these two, of this party, of this coalition of two parties right here. And Angela Merkel accepted 1 million or 2 million, almost 2 million refugees. Now that's not what the conservatives are doing. Okay. Anyway, that's one example. So this is where this guy supposedly won with about 28%. Then we have on the other side here, we have Scholz. Scholz with his Communist Party won about, 13, 14, 12, something like this. Big losers of the elections. Remember, these are on two opposite sides of the spectrum. Center, this is the Nazis, this is the communists. That's the way they want us to look at that. And then the other ones are far right, the Alternative für Deutschland, for Germany, Alternative for Germany. They won almost 21%. So 27, almost 28, 20 some, 21, and these guys less. So the alliance, the coalition of these two parties and some other little crumbs should form the government. Because the ideology, they are closer here than these guys, with Scholz. Remember, it's like you have the communists and the Nazis forming a coalition government, and they will rule a certain country. No, it doesn't work like that. So I'm going to discuss first. This is a video that I made, not this one, right here, when the elections occurred in Germany. I said Germany's elections, the globalists won, not the conservatives. Why? Because the so-called conservatives, Mr. Merz party, right here, this baboon right here, this party is going to do everything what the globalists want, in my assessment. And here, this is what I said. Not the conservatives, don't fall for it. Alternative for Deutschland's successes. So what happened? German elections won by the globalist, AfD, don't fall for it. I said it, and right now, the so-called conservatives, let me close that, the so-called conservatives will make an alliance to rule Germany with the other on the opposite spectrum. I mean, I will bring into the conversation, I will read that article which states exactly that, what I said. These guys are not conservatives. These guys are whatever the globalists tell them. Germany's Merz wants agreement with Scholz ahead of EU-Ukraine summit. So these guys with 27, 28% want with this guy, with Scholz, 13, 14%, instead of getting with Alternative for Deutschland, which would be on the same side of the spectrum. Now, sorry to bring this to you, but it was a guy who lived from exactly 1889 until 1945. And this bad guy, he wrote a book in the early 20s, while he was incarcerated for his political views, actually for trying to start a revolution. But nevertheless, while in that little prison cell, he dictated certain crazy stuff to a guy called Rudolf Hess. And Rudolf Hess, wrote tick, 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 and then he published these books, 2 of them in 2 volumes, and now you find him in 1 volume. So in that booklet, all right, let's put it this way, we have to make fun of it, you can't use, like, oh my God. He says the problem with democracy and the problem with the parliaments is that they hide behind the numbers. That is, they can screw up a country, and then you say, who did it? Well, we voted. All of us voted. That means you can't punish us. And you say you can't really pinpoint who did it exactly. But as a person, he claimed, the figure, you can, when he makes some mistakes or he succeeds, you can point clearly, he did it, he said it. But that was one point. And the other point he said about the coalition governments. That gets me to this. He said that it's impossible, it's unethical to have a government formed by 2 opposition parties or an opposed spectrum of political views, and they form coalitions. Why? Because when you do that, that means you agree to work with someone and you have to negotiate. And not only to negotiate, make deals that the guys who are supporting you disagree with. So let's say here, people who voted for Merz party, did not vote for Scholz party. Why? Because they didn't like their platform, their worldview. So now you bring in these guys together. No, I didn't vote for those guys to be in the government. Otherwise, I would have voted for them. And vice versa. The guys for Alternative of Germany, who's closer as view with the so-called conservatives, should make a coalition. They are closer. It's like you say, I'm going to give Gigi, let's say, this is the how should I put it, the right and left. Right says, okay, we're going to give you, Merz says $5. Alternative for Deutschland says, we're going to give you $10. But the other guys are going to say, no, we're going to take $10. So the whole principle is opposite. We're going to take from you $10, says Scholz, and the other 2 parties are saying, we're going to give you. So give versus take. The ideology is closer to giving instead of taking. And these guys are forming a party with the givers and the takers. It's the opposite thing. But this is the way it works. So that guy in his little booklet from 1922 or 21, he said exactly this. How can you have these coalition parties? That means you have to give something. Imagine these guys are going to be together, Scholz and Merz. And they have, let's say, the Department of Education, let's say in Germany, is going to be, let's say, Scholz. And Scholz will teach the German children the idiotic, woke, whatever ideology. He's going to teach them that. Why? Because that's the way, that's their department. And then in the war sphere, we're going to have the Republicans, how do you call them? The Merz, the conservatives, so-called. So the Germans will look in the education, the government doesn't follow what I want. She teaches my children to hate themselves and feel guilty about something they have never done. And in the war, this guy does whatever I want. Yeah, that's true. I didn't vote for that. So this is the garbage of democracy, part of it. And the other one is with the coalition government. Let's see how this guy wants to make a deal right here. Germany's Merz wants agreement with Scholz. This guy. I told you he's not a conservative, but he's portrayed as conservative to appease the baboons. No, the real conservatives are Alternative for Deutschland. So Friedrich Merz, Christian Democratic Union of Germany, CDU, candidate for Chancellor of CDU, Federal Chairman, speaks, German conservative leader Friedrich Nietzsche. Merz, the presumptive next Chancellor, believes the urgency is great for the country to agree on how to finance a hike in spending, Merz, center-right, that's supposedly conservative, made up of the Christian Democrats, CDU, and Bavaria only Christian Social Union, won parliamentary elections last month and is currently holding exploratory talks with the Social Democratic Communist, SPD, like the Greens. The Greens are also bear box, over the formation of a coalition. You got it? And here it says, the negotiations comes and we have to do it, so it's an emergency, we have to do it. No, you don't have to. Merz said in Berlin on Monday that the urgency is great and that the parties should try to agree. How can you agree? I give and take. The other one is a take. You can't. It's the opposite. One is for death and one is for life. How can you? Before Thursday's summit on EU leaders in Brussels, the 69-year-old is due to attend a separate meeting of the European People's Party group in Brussels on Thursday, and said he would like for him and outgoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz to be saying the same thing. Merz refused to be drawn on reports that he is considering calling a special session on the Bundestag, Germany's lower parliament. So he wants to speak with Merz. Woo, woo. I saw Zelensky and immediately I was conditioned to my habits. Okay, so we can move on now. We can move on. So don't fall for it. When you hear coalition governments, if they're not close or at least on the same side of the spectrum, no. But it's not that. That told me when they portrayed that guy as a conservative, I said, this guy is not conservative. And I was right. They have no values. Why? Because the same paymasters are behind the whole thing. Like in America. In America, we have two different parties. Like you have A and A. That's what you had, A and A. And they're like this, and you put it like this, is the same party. Or the analogy I make with the Americans here, there are two twins, the Democrats and the Republicans. But one twin, biological, identical twins, has a goatee or a mustache, all right? And the other one doesn't, but everything else is the same. But guess what? They have the same caregivers, which is the parents. And the parents are the big business. The same big business feeds child A and child A. They call child B. It's still child A with a mustache. The same in Germany. The guys who feed the central conservatives and the liberals are the same. The only independent ones, and the Greens the same. The only independent ones are the alternative of Deutschland. Why? They say really what, it should be said. These guys are just schemers. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.